My name is Linda Moretti, and at 33 years old, when my family laughed as I ate bread alone, I stayed quiet. Months later, they showed up screaming in my lobby. I told them, I'm done. I have served as my family's personal checking account for the past 15 years. Yes, you heard that right. 15 freaking years. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. Grab some popcorn. This is going to be long and hectic. I work in pharmaceutical sales as a territory manager for the Midwest. The salary is absurdly high. Base salary is around $85,000, with commission and bonuses adding another $35 to $45,000 in a good year. I drive a paid-off Honda, live in a modest two-bedroom apartment, and purchase my furnishings at estate sales. My coworkers think I am cheap. My family believes I am broke. I never corrected either of these assumptions. My 28-year-old brother, Adrian, is the golden kid. My parents brag about their success story at every family event. He owns what he calls a digital marketing agency. From what I can see, he and two freelancers are making Instagram advertising for local businesses and charging them exorbitant fees for basic services. But he has an office in a trendy portion of downtown Minneapolis, drives a leased Audi, and wears nice timepieces that he forgets to remove when photographed. Adrienne and Isabel married 3 years ago. She's a true piece of work. A former sorority president turned lifestyle influencer with 9,500 Instagram followers. Does not function. Just shares photographs of herself having expensive coffee and about manifestation and abundance. My mother treats her like she's visiting royalty. They live in a refurbished brownstone in Linen Hills with heated flooring and a chef's kitchen. Their mortgage is more than $2,000 per month. Per. I know since I covered it twice when Adrienne's company experienced cash flow problems. I was 10 when I figured out how things worked. Adrienne was 5 years old when my parents threw him a large birthday party at a trampoline park. They rented the entire facility, hired a person to dress up as Spider-Man, and had a bespoke cake. I asked my mom whether I might bring my best friend Matt. She got this angry look on her face as if I had asked for something absurd. She exclaimed, Linda, today isn't about you. Don't be selfish. I stayed home. My father handed me $10 and told me to purchase pizza. I recall sitting on the floor of our living room, eating alone, and hearing my mother's voicemail fill up with messages from relatives telling her what a wonderful party it was. Nobody noted that I wasn't there. Nobody questioned why. That became the blueprint. My college fund was depleted the year Adrienne wanted to attend a private high school with a lacrosse team. My graduation celebration was canceled due to Adrienne's playoff game. My father became enraged when I saved enough money to buy my first car, a used Civic that I paid for by working late shifts at a distribution warehouse. Said I made him seem horrible. People would assume he couldn't provide for his family. 3 months later, he bought Adrienne a used Jeep and informed everyone that he had been saving for years to surprise him. My function became clear to me early on. I was not the daughter you celebrated. When my parents required $5,800 for emergency roof repairs, I mailed them a check. Adrienne's wedding location wanted a $10,500 deposit, which he did not have. When Isabel's car was totaled and their insurance didn't cover the cost, I wired $20,400. When my father's medical bills for a minor procedure piled up, I paid $3,700. Nobody thanked me. Nobody asked how I did it. My father would take credit, shaking hands at church and taking congratulations for being such a provider. Adrienne would share photographs of his life on social media discussing hard work and blessings. Isabel would tag my mother in images of lavish brunches, expressing gratitude for her generosity. I became a ghost. My friend Felix would tell me I was becoming accustomed. Every few weeks, we'd have lunch, and I'd gently say that I was assisting my family with something. He'd shake his head, call me a doormat, and say they'd never stop taking as long as I gave. I'd shift the subject because part of me believed that if I just gave it my all, they'd notice me. I'd eventually matter. 15 years is how long I believe that falsehood. 4 months ago, my mother called. On a Wednesday afternoon, I was finishing up a meeting with a hospital administrator when my phone chimed. She was speaking in a cheery voice. She said my father wanted to take the entire family to supper on Friday night. He said it was important. Adrienne and Isabel announced they had great news to share. I already knew what it meant. I considered saying no, but I knew what would happen. My mother would write paragraph-long texts on how vital family is. My father would leave voicemails calling me ungrateful. Adrienne would post on how difficult it is when others do not support your success. It was easier to just leave. I said yes. Mom gave me the details. Friday at 7 p.m., someplace called Monarch Prime. I had never heard of it. After we hung up, I looked it up. It was one of those steakhouses where business people go clients to finalize transactions. Reservations only. Dress code is severely enforced. The menu wasn't even online, but reviews said entrees started at $58 and steaks were more than $175. I knew exactly how this would turn out. My father would sit at the head of the table ordering the most expensive items, offering toasts, and playing the benevolent patriarch. When the bill arrived, he'd catch my eye with that look that indicated, "You've got this right," and I'd pay as usual. While he appreciated the compliment, I called Felix that night and informed him about the supper. He laughed the way you do when someone tells you they're about to make the same mistake for the 100th time. He asked me, "How much do you think this one's going to cost you?" I responded, "Couple grand probably." He asked me, "You know they're never going to stop, right? Not as long as you keep paying." I responded, "Yeah, I know." But I didn't know. Not really. Not yet. Friday came around. I went to the gym in the morning and then ate lunch at my favorite Vietnamese restaurant where you can get a huge bowl of pho for $8. I spent the afternoon catching up on business emails and watching college football. Around 6:45, I put on dress slacks and a button-down. I drove to Monarch Prime. The restaurant was in the North Loop, a converted warehouse with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. I pulled up, handed my keys to a kid in a vest, and went inside. The hostess wore all black and had the stance taught at finishing school. I gave her my father's name. She grinned as she led me through the dining room. Everything was dark wood and leather, gloomy lighting, and quiet conversations. The kind of place where silence itself cost money. They had reserved a corner table near the windows that overlooked the city. I was the first person there. I sat facing the entrance, ordered water, and avoided the bread they brought out. My family came 12 minutes late and together. My mother wore a dress I had never seen before. My father had on a full suit. Adrienne and Isabel appeared to have stepped out of a Neiman Marcus catalog. Adrienne's suit is definitely more expensive than my rent. They moved by me to the table. My mother was waving to someone across the room. My father was scanning the area. Adrienne was on the phone. Isabel was changing her hairstyle. Nobody said hi. Nobody acknowledged that I existed. They took their seats, shrugging off jackets and setting down bags. My mother leaned in closer, Isabel, and said something that made them both chuckle. Adrienne ordered a drink before reviewing the menu. My father flagged down the waiter and began asking about the drink list. I sat down, hands folded, hoping for someone to notice me. The waiter arrived with drinks and poured them into 4 glasses. My parents, Adrienne's and Isabel's, skipping mine entirely. My father didn't notice. The menus arrived, hefty leather bound with gold lettering. I opened mine and went directly to the prices. Appetizers cost $25 to $50. The cheapest entree was $52 for chicken. There was pasta for $42. I decided it was my best move. Filled enough and inexpensive enough not to grab attention. My father reclined back without opening his menu. That's when I realized he was going huge. He replied, "Order whatever you like. Tonight's special." I went back to my menu and spotted the spaghetti again. That would work. The waiter returned, pen ready. My father went first and ordered the ribeye, the largest they had, with truffle butter and roasted bone marrow. My mother requested scallops with caviar and lobster tail. Adrienne and Isabel rattled off their orders. The big porterhouse, the filt, the whole lobster appetizer, and more sides. Then everyone glanced at me. The waiter looked at me. I opened my mouth to request pasta. My father cut me off. He explained, "Linda doesn't require much. She's trying to save money." He reached across the table for the bread basket. It was filled with warm sourdough rolls and butter. He slid it towards me. The sound of the basket scratching across the tablecloth was audible in the sudden silence. He replied, "We didn't order enough for you anyway. This should be enough." The table fell silent, the kind that happens when someone is humiliated in public. I stared at the bread basket. My mother looked down at her napkin. Adrienne smirked and glanced at Isabel. She had a contented little smile, as if she were watching something fascinating. Her response was, "Honestly, you should be grateful your dad even invited you." The waiter stood frozen. His pen had not moved. He stared at me, then at my father, trying to figure out whether this was a joke. I shook my head slightly. He stepped back. I drew the basket closer to me, tore off a slice of bread, and chewed it slowly. It tasted like nothing. My father resumed his conversation, this time regarding investing in rental properties. My mother inquired about possible baby names with Isabel. Apparently, that was the major news they were looking for. Adrienne examined his phone, one hand scrolling and the other holding a drink. I ate another slice of bread, then another, the basket empty. Nobody offered me anything else. The lobster came out. Adrienne and Isabel tore into it, shattering shells and remarking on how delicious it tasted. My mother took photographs. My father poured more drinks. When the entree arrived, the server arranged huge dishes in front of everyone but me. My father's steak was the size of a small roast. Adrienne's porterhouse hung on the plate. Isabel bit into her fillet and raved about how it was the nicest thing she'd ever had. My mother ate the scallops with her eyes closed. I sat there with empty hands, watching them eat and thought about numbers. The roof repair I'd paid for, Adrienne's wedding, my father's surgical bills, my mother's credit card debt that I'd paid off twice, Adrienne's house payments twice. While they nibbled $350 steaks, I sat there with a bread basket, adding up the numbers in my mind. Adrienne glanced at me and said, "You know, Linda, if you actually applied yourself, maybe you could afford to eat like an adult." Isabel laughed. Actually laughed. My mother smirked. My father didn't even look up. I nodded and said nothing. I just folded my hands and waited. Let them enjoy it while it lasts. Then came dessert, which was a softball-sized chocolate confection served with 4 spoons. They gobbled it in minutes. I was watching. When they finished, my father patted his stomach. That was perfect. We should do this more often. The waiter appeared with a little black leather folder. He strolled past them all and stopped next to me, putting it in front of me. I opened it. $2,975. I glanced at the figure. $2,975 for a lunch I did not consume. Then I stood up. The chair scratched so loudly that folks at nearby tables peered over. I closed the folder, passed it across the table toward my father, looked at the waiter, and said, "Give it to the people who actually ate." Everyone became silent. Then my mother said, "Excuse me?" "Yeah, excuse me," I said. Then I walked away. I walked through the restaurant, past the bar and host stand, and out the front doors into the October cold. My hands remained steady. I felt relaxed, weirdly, absurdly calm, as if I'd been holding my breath for 15 years and suddenly released. I got to my car and sat behind the wheel. Did not start the engine. I just sat there in the parking garage for a minute. Inside, I understood what was going on. The waiter standing at the table holding that bill, my father staring at the total, his face flushed, and my mother glancing around anxiously, concerned about what others were thinking. Adrienne was presumably reaching for his wallet, recognizing that his credit card wouldn't pay half of this. My phone started vibrating with texts from, "Mom, get back here right now." From Dad, "You don't dare embarrass us like this. Fix this right away." From Adrienne, "Are you kidding me? You're embarrassing us." Isabel, "You are pathetic. Grow up and pay the bills." I read each one and let them sit on my screen. Then I opened my contacts and blocked everyone, every one of them. I started the car and drove home leisurely, taking the long road through downtown, past the river and the ancient neighborhoods. No rush. Nobody is waiting. Nobody is phoning me. I parked at my building and walked up 3 flights of steps. I came inside and sat on my couch in the dark lighting. For 15 years, I assumed that being silent was equivalent to maintaining peace, that paying for their meals, bills, and emergencies was what their family expected, that if I just donated enough, they would finally notice me, that I would believe I am good enough. But sitting there with that bread basket in front of me, watching those jerks eat $350 steaks, I finally understood. Years of pent-up guilt and patience were finally released. I was not their daughter or sister. So, I opened my banking app and started reading through the automatic payments I had set up over the years. Dad's yacht club membership costs $340 per month. Adrienne's business loan payment is $750 per month. Mom's spa membership costs $150 per month. Parents' timeshare in Scottsdale costs $540 per month. I canceled every single one. Each confirmation felt like another weight being lifted. Moved to my credit cards and discovered approved users. Adrienne was on 2 cards, Dad on one, and Mom on the other. I erased them all, locked the accounts, and changed each password. Then I opened my email and searched for invoice, receipt, and payment. Years of history surfaced. I'd paid for trips I wasn't invited on, birthday parties I never went to, and house improvements where I wasn't wanted. I established a folder called Evidence and began moving everything in. Then I dug deeper. I looked up pending charges on my credit cards. I discovered 6 I hadn't authorized. Isabel at Saks Fifth Avenue, 2 days before the dinner. Adrienne at a golf club pro shop. Mom at Nordstrom. Dad at a luxury automobile detail shop. And 2 more from Adrienne's business account. A total of $2,000 in marketing expenses. I challenged each one and filed fraud reports. The bank sent confirmations in minutes. The charges would be reversed. They would all receive notices. Perfect. I examined my email for recurring payments, found the Scottsdale timeshare. My folks used it for 3 weeks each year. I had been paying the monthly charge for 5 years. The next payment was due in 5 days. I called the firm and canceled it. They reimbursed the deposit. I discovered another invoice, Adrienne's business financing. He had taken out $32,000 to expand 2 years prior. I'd been covering the monthly payment ever since because he promised to pay me back once things settled. They never did. I called the bank and stated I was no longer financially responsible. They updated the records. All subsequent correspondence would be directed to Adrienne. By Sunday night, I had canceled 15 recurring payments. Total monthly savings, $3,400. The amount I had been sending to people who treated me as if I were a stranger. Monday morning, I drafted an email to my extended family, aunts, uncles, and cousins, who would most likely start receiving calls from my parents soon. I'm dealing with a personal situation and need some space. Please do not contact me on behalf of my parents or Adrienne. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I sent it to 20 people and set up email filters. Anything with my parents' names, Adrienne's name, or Isabel's name went straight to a folder I'd never open. I called Felix and told him everything. He was quiet for a second before chuckling. "Holy hell, Linda, you actually did it." I said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "Finally, it took you long enough. How are you feeling?" I thought about it. Free? On Tuesday afternoon, they arrived at my building. I was about to go for lunch when I noticed them in the lobby. All 4 of them standing near the front desk talking to Eric, my building manager. Dad's voice sounded loud. "It is a family emergency. We need to visit her right away." Mom's expression was filled with worry. Adrienne stood there, arms folded, jaw hard. Isabel seemed annoyed. I paused just inside the hallway, took a breath, and pondered going around. But this was my building, my home. They were the intruders. I walked forwards. Eric noticed me first. "Ms. Moretti, these people swear they're your family. They're requesting entry to your unit." I looked at them. I don't want them in my building. Mom stepped forward. "Linda, please. We just want to talk." I shake my head. "No." Dad's cheeks turned red. "This is ridiculous. You have embarrassed us. You left us with a $2,900 bill that we could not pay. You have been neglecting us. You owe us an explanation." I looked him dead in the eyes. "I do not owe you anything. Figure out your stuff." Adrienne moved closer. "Don't talk to your father like this. You have to grow up and correct this." I said, "You are no longer my issue, people. I'm done with you." Mom's eyes flooded with tears. "Linda, how do you do this? What has happened to you?" And something within me cracked. "What's happened to me?" I said. "Apparently, I am not going to let you walk over me anymore. I've been dealing with your BS for years. I helped everyone because I was naive enough to believe you saw me as a daughter. You do not. You regard me as a wallet. The wallet is now closed. Get the hell out of here." They froze and even pretended to be hurt. "That's not true," Dad said. I cut him off. "So why did you give me a breadbasket while everyone else was eating 350 steaks? Why did Isabel tell me I should be grateful that you invited me? Why have I been paying for your life for years and you never say thank you?" The lobby became absolutely silent. Eric shifted uncomfortably. A few residents strolled by, trying not to stare. "I canceled the payments. All of them. I removed you from my credit cards. I disputed the charges you made without asking. I am done. Now again, straighten your things out and leave me alone." "You cannot do that," Dad shouted. "You can't cut us off like this." I smiled. "I just did. Sue me." Adrienne's voice became sharp. "You're going to regret this, Linda." I looked at him. "I'm really not." I turned to face Eric. "Please make sure they leave." He nodded and moved, approaching my family. "You folks need to go." I strolled past them and out the front door. I heard my father call out my name, didn't stop. Got into my car and drove away. I did not look back once. That night, I completed the calculations. I pulled out every receipt, bank statement, and invoice from the previous 15 years and created a spreadsheet. When I concluded, I was astounded by the amount I had given them over 15 years, $248,000. That was a house. That was retirement money. I broke it down. I printed the spreadsheet, which was 12 pages long. Over the next week, I tracked the fallout via email. Everything got into that filtered folder, but I checked it once, just to be sure. Dad's boat club sent a suspension notice. Membership was revoked due to non-payment. He had 30 days to pay the remainder or lose access forever. The Scottsdale timeshare firm deducted the $1,600 cancellation fee from Dad's credit card. He'd have to pay or risk collection. Adrienne received a note from the bank regarding his company loan, which had missed its first payment. If he did not catch up within 14 days, they would initiate default procedures. One by one, the luxuries I'd been funding vanished. My uncle wrote an email. Dad was reportedly struggling financially. He said my mother was distraught. He suggested I reconsider since family forgives. I did not respond. A cousin contacted me on Facebook, said I was pulling the family apart, said I was nasty over a single supper. I blocked her, but they were not finished. These people had no idea about boundaries. And honestly, it was entirely my fault from the start. They went much too far. 2 weeks after the dinner, I returned home from work to find my car keyed with deep scratches on both sides from headlight to taillight. The word JK is carved into the driver's side door. I stood in the parking garage, took photos from all angles, and filed a police report. The cop that arrived remarked that unless I had video footage or witnesses, they probably couldn't do much. I knew who had done it. I couldn't prove it, but I knew. 3 days later, someone slashed both of my tires. That night, I added a front and rear-facing dash cam that was motion actuated. It cost me $350, but it was worthwhile. The following occurrence occurred in my apartment. I arrived home to discover paint splashed on my door, red paint dripping down to the carpet, and the word traitor in sloppy letters. Eric, the building manager, was irate. He reviewed the hallway cameras. The camera showed a guy wearing a sweatshirt and mask, but no face was seen. It occurred at 1:30 a.m. when nobody was present. I filed another police report. The same cop from earlier became more curious. He claimed it was plainly targeted harassment, asked if I had any idea who could be doing this. I told him about my family, the supper, and the decision to cut them off. He took notes, said I should consider documenting everything, and even obtaining a restraining order if it persisted. And it did. Someone called my office and pretended to be a client, made an official complaint about me, which was a complete fabrication. Said I mishandled their account and cost them money. My manager summoned me in alarm. I described the problem, showed him the police papers and the pattern of harassment. He believed me, but I sensed he was concerned. Then they targeted my reputation. Someone made a phony Facebook profile using my name and photo. It began writing odd rants about how I had abandoned my sick mother, stolen from my brother's business, and refused to support my family in their time of need. Friends started texting me to see whether I was okay. I reported the profile. Facebook removed it after 3 days, but the harm had been done. I called Felix and informed him everything that was happening. He said, "You need to get a lawyer. These folks are insane." He handed me the phone number of his attorney, Clara Weiss, who specialized in family law and restraining orders. I called her the following day. We met at her office in downtown. I brought everything, including the spreadsheet with $248,000 in payments and the police records. She examined everything attentively. Then she added, "Linda, this is pretty obvious harassment. We can seek a restraining order, but please understand that this will exacerbate the situation rather than improve it. Are you prepared for that?" "I'm ready," she nodded. Good. Let's make them face the consequences. We filed restraining orders against all 4 of them. The petitions were detailed with all of the proof, police records, images, the spreadsheet demonstrating financial abuse, and screenshots of threatening texts from extended family members that referenced talks with my parents. The court date was established for 2 weeks away. In the meantime, things became worse. Someone spray painted my apartment building's exterior wall with large letters. "Linda Moretti is a thief." Eric was infuriated. Building surveillance camera captured a dark SUV pulling up at 3:00 a.m. Someone getting out, causing damage, and then leaving. The plates were hidden by muck, but I recognized that SUV. Adrienne drove a dark blue Audi Q7. I forwarded the clip to Clara and the police. Then Isabel made an error. She shared a photo of the vandalism on my building on her Instagram story with the message, "When karma comes for people who abandon family." I screenshotted it before it disappeared and emailed it to Clara. She grinned upon seeing it. They're making this too easy. Harassment continued. Someone filed a fraudulent report with my HOA, stating that I was operating an unlawful company from my apartment. The HOA board investigated but discovered nothing, so I had to attend a hearing and explain myself. Someone had put a dead rat on my doormat. I took photographs and filed another police report. Then Adrienne arrived at my workplace. I was in a meeting with a hospital purchasing director when my assistant knocked on the door, appearing uneasy. She stated that someone named Adrienne Moretti was in the foyer requesting to see me, alleging a family emergency. I excused myself from the meeting and strolled out into the lobby. Adrienne stood there in pants and a crumpled button-down, appearing as if he hadn't slept in days. His usually impeccable hair was a disaster. When he saw me, his expression twisted. "We need to talk," I answered. "No, we don't." He moved closer. "You are destroying this family. Mom is taking anxiety medicine because of you. Dad needed to sell his boat. My business is collapsing because you withdrew the loan payment. Isabel is pregnant and quite stressed." "That's not my problem." His voice became louder. "You owe us, Linda." "I don't owe you anything. You need to leave now." "Or what?" I grabbed out my phone and began recording. Or I call the police and add another incident to the restraining order petition. His face turned pale. He glanced at the phone and then at me. "You're really doing this." "You did it, all of you. Now leave." He turned and went away. I saw him get into his SUV, the same one from the security footage, and drive out of the parking lot. I sent the video to Clara right away. That night, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't respond, but something made me pick up. It was my mother crying. "Linda, please, your father needed to take out a loan. We need assistance. We need you." I replied, "No, Mom, move on. I'm not your bank anymore." "That's not fair," she said. "You allowed Adrienne and Isabel to mock me. You used me for 15 years and never asked how I was doing. You're now vandalizing my property and harassing me at work. And you want to talk about fairness?" She was silent for a long time. "If you don't help us, we're going to lose the house." "Then you'll lose the house." "How could you be so cruel?" "I learned from the best," I explained. Then I hung up and blocked the number. The court day arrived, and it was stunning. The courthouse appeared chilly and impersonal. Clara and I met in the hallway outside the courtroom. She was carrying 2 briefcases filled with evidence. "They're here," she said. "All 4 of them. They have a lawyer too named Henrik Vogel. He'll try to portray you as vengeful and financially controlling. But don't worry, we are going to bury him." We entered the courtroom. My family was sitting on the other side with their attorney, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit who exuded confidence. The judge was a woman in her 60s. She had a reputation for not accepting rubbish. The hearing began. Henrik Vogel went first, attempting to cast me as a domineering daughter who had financially abused her family for years before abruptly cutting them off without warning. He argued the vandalism was untested, the phony Facebook profile could have been established by anyone, and my family simply wanted to reconnect. Clara then stood up and destroyed them. She walked the judge through the whole spreadsheet, which totaled $248,000 in payments over 15 years. She presented paperwork from the supper at Monarch Prime, where I was given a breadbasket while they ordered almost $2,875 worth of food. She demonstrated the immediate harassment that began when I cut them off financially, including the keyed car, slashed tires, vandalism, fake social media, dead rat, and Adrienne turning up at my office. She showed the security footage of Adrienne's SUV at my building on the night someone spray-painted the facade. She shared Isabel's Instagram post, which celebrated the damage and included a smug caption about karma. Then followed the financial records, every fraudulent credit card charge, canceled payment, each contested transaction. Henrik objected, stating that financial history was irrelevant to a harassment action. The judge instantly shut him down, telling him that she would decide what was significant. Clara kept going. She demonstrated that Adrienne had submitted bogus complaints, the HOA report and the fake client complaint at my workplace, showing how the harassment had progressed over 5 weeks in a clear pattern of retribution. She then aired a video of Adrienne at my office, getting in my face and threatening me. When she finished, the judge remained silent for a time, staring at my family with visible disgust. My father couldn't keep his mouth shut. Henrik tried to stop him, but Dad stood up and delivered a lengthy speech about how he had raised me, given me everything, and now I was quitting the family over one supper. One mistake. He truly said that. The judge let him speak for roughly 30 seconds before cutting him off. She asked him directly if he had served me a breadbasket while everyone else ate costly steaks. He stammered and said it was a misunderstanding. She asked if I had paid for the dinner. He admitted I hadn't and that they had to cover it themselves after I left. Then she took out the financial documents showing the $248,000 I had paid over the years and asked if it was correct. Dad's cheeks turned red. He started backpedaling, claiming that I had offered to assist and that they had never compelled me to pay for anything. She flipped through the evidence one more time before looking up. Her voice was ice cold as she announced the restraining order. All 4 of them were barred from contacting me directly or indirectly. They couldn't get within 400 feet of my home, business, or vehicle. The order would remain in effect for 18 months. My mother started crying. Dad appeared to have been smacked. Adrienne's expression twisted with wrath. Isabel stared at the floor. And the best part is that the judge ordered them to pay reparations for property damage. She explained that we would submit an itemized list, which the court would analyze to determine the ultimate sum. The hearing was over. Clara turned to face me, smiling. That went well. I nodded. Honestly, I'm just exhausted. We walked out of court. My family was in the hallway, huddled together with Henrik Vogel. My father noticed me and began to say something. Clara moved between us. Don't. You are currently under court order. Walk away. They walked away. Clara and I stood for a moment. She said, "Are you okay?" "I'm great," I said. She nodded. Here comes the fun part. We make them pay for what they did. The restitution hearing was scheduled for 5 weeks later. Meanwhile, Clara engaged a forensic accountant to investigate everything. Every vandalism incident, every property damage claim, and every verifiable expense tied to their harassment. The accountant's name was Matteo Klein. He resembled someone's father, but possessed shark-like predatory instincts. He searched through my data as if he were investigating financial fraud. He calculated car repair costs for keying and tire slashing, building exterior cleaning and repainting, door replacement and hallway carpet cleaning, dash cam installation, security system upgrade for my apartment, missed wages for police reports and court appearances, legal fees, and emotional distress. He suggested we might dispute about $18,000, but Matteo suggested we go bigger. He stated we might add the bogus credit card charges they made before I turned them off, which I had rejected. This added an additional $5,000, and he indicated we might seek punitive damages based on the pattern of harassment. Clara agreed. We filed a claim for $28,000. My family's counsel tried to oppose it, claiming that the numbers were inflated, that emotional pain was not quantifiable, and that I was attempting to financially ruin them. The hearing was before the same judge. Mateo testified first, walking the judge through every single spending, line by line, displaying receipts and police reports that matched the dates and everything. Henrik Vogel attempted to poke holes during cross-examination. Mateo did not budge. He had documents for everything. Then Clara summoned me to the stand. I recounted the entire story, 15 years of being the family ATM, the dinner, and the harassment that ensued when I finally said no. I discussed how it affected my employment, emotional health, and capacity to feel safe at home. Then Adrienne took the stand. Henrik had advised against it, as evidenced by the look on his face. But Adrienne insisted. He came up there and immediately began ranting about how I'd always been jealous of him, how I couldn't take the fact that he was more successful, and how I duped our parents into believing I was the victim. Clara simply let him hang himself with his own words for a good 5 minutes. Then she posed a simple question. Have you vandalized your sister's property? No, I didn't. Clara displayed the security footage. Is this your vehicle? Adrienne froze. It looks like mine, but I let someone borrow it that night. What friend? I don't remember. Right. When testimony concluded, the judge did not waste time deliberating. She declared that she would award me $21,000 in damages and reparations. The payment included documented property damage, lost wages, legal fees, and mental suffering. The four of them would split it equally at $5,250 each. Payment was due within 60 days, or she would authorize wage garnishment. My father jumped up and protested that they couldn't afford it. The judge shut him down. Gavel struck. Done. I walked out of the courthouse, Clara beside me. She smiled. They'll have to sell things. Downsize for once. Take the consequences seriously. I nodded. Good. 2 months later, I received a certified check in the mail for $21,000 from an attorney's trust account. They had paid. I deposited it. Then I donated half of it to a financial literacy organization that teaches young people about budgeting and avoiding unhealthy financial connections. The other half I kept. I used some of it to take a 2-week trip to Japan, which I had always wanted to do but had never done. I didn't mention it on social media. I didn't tell anyone except Felix. Just went. I ate amazing cuisine, saw temples. I walked through cities where no one knew me. When I returned, my apartment felt different. Lighter. The restraining order remained in effect. Nobody had approached me. Nobody had violated it. I changed my phone number solely for safety. Friends had it, nobody else. At work, everything improved. My manager had been supportive throughout, and I had worked hard to show that the turmoil would not hinder my performance. I concluded the year 12% above quota, received a bonus. Life moved forward. I vividly remember that night at Monarch Prime. The breadbasket, the expression on their faces as I walked away from that bill, the dread they must have felt. But more, I remember the time in my car afterward, sitting in the dark parking garage, blocking their numbers one by one, and the silence that followed. That was the moment when I decided to be free.